Welcome to Changing Suits. We're your hosts, Val.
and Taj, discussing the latest news, views, and general life for us Western Asians.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Val.
And my name's Taj.
Today we're going to be discussing what is the perfect woman?
Myself, obviously.
Yes, of course. Okay, so I'm sort of talking about, what can we say is the perfect woman, perfect wife, perfect mother? Can we be everything to everybody?
I think there's a lot of pressure of women having to be the perfect woman, working, then being a perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect daughter, perfect, I can't think of anything else, perfect cleaner, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so in the good old days, because we always like to refer to the good old days,
I'll
women
try
would,
not to go back to the bend.
yeah, please do, because you haven't actually spent that much time there, even though it sounds like you've spent your whole life there. You've barely spent a few weeks there in your whole 40 years. So anyway, yeah, that would be a good idea. Okay, so let's look back. So women traditionally were the homemakers. Is that what they call it? Homemakers?
Yep.
Yeah. So they'd obviously do the cooking, cleaning, looking after the kids, bringing them up. But as time's moved on, we've been given another role. We actually have to work just like our partners. So why is it that we still feel that we still need to do everything at home plus the stuff outside?
I'm just going to stop you there, actually. And I'm going to say, I think women were working as well before, and they were, because I was doing a bit of research into this, and I am going to bring something from the bend. I know how you find it annoying, but I'm going to do it. So in World War One, women were actually actively working, having paid jobs. So it's not a new thing that women are working. Maybe
How,
there's different pressures, and I'm going to mention the bend thing as well. I know you hate that, but I'm going to say it. But in the bend, when men went away, for example, to war, women had to take over. And so they were doing all the farming, etc.
okay, so let's not talk about the war because right now Boris hasn't started a war yet. But let's talk about real, life for a normal person.
Is there such
So,
thing?
well, relatively normal. Okay, I get what you're saying. We always think, oh yeah, women used to stay at home and didn't do anything else. But even the way I've just said that, now listening to the way I've said it, is there anything wrong with being the homemaker?
Well, when I used to stay at home and didn't go out for employment, you did have a lot of people that were looking down at you, and it was like, oh, what did you do at home? And it was almost like the reaction that you're going to be like, oh, I done nothing, put my feet up and watch TV all day. Because believe me, I did not do that. I didn't have time to do that.
See, I sort of, on the other side of it, get why those people did it. It was a case of, oh, I'm working, I'm better than you because you're staying at home. However, when I went on mat leave and then I took a bit of time out at that point, I was like, actually, this isn't a walk in the park. And I'm actually enjoying being at home, enjoying being with the kids, enjoying not having to run to work. And I think we all found that during the pandemic as well, though, right?
Yeah.
Because we didn't have that pressure of work and you could literally enjoy life somewhat. Although, saying that, being at home 100% of the time, that was stress in itself. And you don't realize that when you're out working because you've sort of compartmentalized, if that's a word, life.
Yeah.
So you're at work and then now it's your home life and you've got a bit of a balance. Whereas if you're at home all the time, it is literally like, oh my God, I'm not getting,
Cutting off from work. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, when I was at home, I remember speaking to this woman, and she was just saying how she was working, and she asked me, "Oh, are you working?" And I go, "No, I'm looking after my child and I'm not working." And the look that I got from her and the way she looked down at me, and she was roughly my age, or a bit younger to be honest. And she goes, "I'd never stay at home and I just wouldn't do it." And lo and behold,
But wait. Why though? Why?
because staying at home is seen to be doing nothing, you're a layabout, you're worthless. That's how you're perceived in society, that you're not important. If you don't work, you don't have value.
Mm.
If you work, then you have that value in the community. And years later, when she had kids, she actually did stay at home. I did want to go back and say, "Hey, thought you weren't going to stay at home." But I'm not that bitter and shallow. I wish I was.
Should we should we name the person now? No, we're
No,
joking.
no. No way.
Okay, so going back to what I said, being on the other side of it, I did actually, I'm going to put my hands up and say I did sort of think that until I went through it myself and I realized how hard it is. And the fact that you do sort of go through that whole thing of, do I want to bring up my kids or do I want to go to work? How much of my time do I want to? Do you see what I mean? So I think you have to go through it to understand it. But looking down at someone, you know, that person probably doesn't realize how much it did affect you, because I know this happened years ago and you're still talking about it now. Um, but that has, people don't realize the impact of that.
They would only realize if it happened to them. We talk about, I know I spend a lot of time on social media, but see, you see a lot of posts say about suicide and stuff like this, going off on another way. But basically, oh, if if you're feeling down, come to me for a cup of tea. And it's like, really, do you actually mean that? If I came to you, how many times would you listen to me? It's people, I think sometimes people don't realize what they're putting out there and what they're saying.
But the thing is, depending on what group that was and all that sort of stuff, if people are going through the same thing, they are willing to listen. I remember when I had, it was between the two kids, and there's not that big a difference between, there's 18 months between them, right? And I remember I was feeling just after my first child, there was a bit of a low point. It wasn't depression. I hadn't got postnatal depression or anything, but there was a low point of, oh my God, I am sort of just stuck at home. Now, just to clarify, I did work right up to um, the end of the pregnancy. I think it was 3 weeks before that I left work, and then I did go back 3 months to one of my jobs 3 months after giving birth.
Mm.
But my other job, I had taken that 1 year out. So just to clarify that. But there was a bit of a low point, and I always say this to some of the other mothers that were going through the same thing. We joined like a play group
Mm.
at one point, and literally we were all going through the same thing. So it was a little network. And so, although you're saying, "Oh, how much will they want to listen?" Well, it's not even the fact that they're listening. It's just that the fact that you realize that there's someone that's also going through the same thing as you, even if you're not talking about it. It's just a bit of a release.
I suppose you are right in that sense. When you go through different stages of life, for example, if you're going to get married, you automatically, people in your age group start getting married. And when you're the last one, you're like, oh God, when's it my turn? And then when people have kids, you start sticking to the people because you're going through the same walks of life. And like you said, you understand the experiences and you can connect. It's all about timing.
It is, and just because we're talking about this, I mean, the question it was gonna be a loaded question, but who puts the most pressure on women to get back to work?
I
If that
think
is,
it's, I think one, yourself, because you're thinking, okay, people are expecting this of me. And then two, the community.
mm,
What were you thinking? What did you think my response was going to be? Women
well,
on women?
well, that was exactly it, because
I
it
thought
was a
so.
load,
That's why I didn't answer it that way.
because we've discussed this before. Okay, and it was loaded because I went through that as well. Where I went back to one of my jobs, and I was literally, and mind, I had gone through really bad labor. And that whole thing of, oh yeah, all women do it, so it's, you shouldn't complain about the fact that you went through bad labor. I don't agree with that. I mean, you pushed out another human being. I don't ever understand that. But hey, I think again you have to go through it to realize it. But basically, I went back to one of my jobs 3 months after I gave birth, and I got slaughtered by women.
Okay, in
Of
what sense? How did you get slaughtered?
So the role that I was in, they were saying, despite you being off for 3 months, you should have known exactly what was going on. You should be you should be up to speed with everything. And I'm like, okay, seriously, give me a break. I'm 3 months back, like
Wow.
seriously. And it was women. Now I don't know if it's because men are too scared to touch on that topic and say maybe what they feel, or they don't feel that. But women have the tendency, I found, in my experience, to really go for it because again, I think it's the whole thing of, oh look, everyone does it, so you can't complain about it.
Or is it, hey, we're women, we have to show that we're stronger than men, so buck up and get on with it?
Mm, possibly. And I so don't agree with that thing to the point where, so I was in politics, and when I got pregnant again, I was like, do you know what? I'm not gonna. I made a choice of I'm not gonna go through that stress and allow anyone to make me feel that stress. So I decided to leave that role,
That's sad, isn't it?
and that is the problem. So I had it was a sort of point of, do I choose looking after my family somewhat, or the role that I was in? And I decided to go with my family. Now I carried on with another role, but I did have to make that choice, and it was down to the fact that other people, I didn't want to take any more stress on.
But I think, yeah, that's horrible that you were pressured to make that decision. I mean,
This is in politics, and this is a place where people should be representing the community. In
but
which case,
behind
you're
closed,
forcing out
mm,
women that have children, which we are part of the community. In fact, we've made a bit more of a bigger community by having a child. um, that's how you do tend to get pushed out. But hey, credit to the women that do stay in and fight through it. I decided to step down, but there's a big problem there.
but this is behind closed doors. I mean, for example, in companies, etc., you'll be like, yeah, you got maternity leave, and then when the person comes back, they experience that everything's changed in quite a lot of roles, and it's relearning processes and things that must have happened in that year or 9 months or however long, that you're like, okay, you know where am I feel lost. How much support do you actually get from management? Is it just tick boxes? Oh, we supported so and so, but is there actual support? That's the question. Because I remember speaking to a lady that came back from maternity, and she was just saying that employers don't basically balance out that, hey, this person's got a child, the pressure's still on. Not sympathy, but what would you say, empathy?
Mm.
That, hey, they've got this going on, we have to balance it out. There is nothing. It's you work, you're here to work, do it. And the question is, should there be that empathy for someone that's a parent that's going through a lot with their child, for example? Or should it be, hey, you're back in work, you're paid to do that job, now do it, stop moaning?
See, it's really hard. And I know we've totally gone off on a tangent, and this is a separate subject which we should explore in itself. But from the business point of view, it is very hard to balance those two things. As an employer,
Mm,
you need the work,
yeah.
regardless of what the other person's situation is, whether it's family, whether it's medical reasons, whatever the reason is. And this is the problem. That's where it's so unfair on women because they have to do the family thing. They have to, it's a really tough position to be in.
I mean, myself going back to work when I started work, my biggest fear was having a gap in the CV
Mm.
and how I was going to explain that in an interview. And I just wanted to kind of dance around the topic. But luckily, for the first place that I got employed, I was upfront and said, "Hey, I took time out to raise a family," and I got the position. And I was really shocked that I got the position because I was like, "Okay, I would have thought that they would have been like, oh God, she's been out for quite a lot of time." Um, but
But
so,
okay, so just on this point, I mean, we've sort of gone on a tangent, but this is the reason we have started FYI CIC. So if anyone hasn't joined, please do join the Facebook group. And this is basically a company to support women who are looking to return to work or are already in work and having problems. Maybe they are having problems with the employer. I mean, one of the things that we're doing now is obviously we're doing workshops for women, things like self confidence building, um, managing imposter syndrome, for example, building your CV. Now, the reason we've decided to do this is because we've been through it ourselves, right? But again, how much, and this is the sort of feedback that we've been getting from previous workshops, how much do we actually talk about this? And we're just going to step away from this, but just to clarify, if you haven't already, listeners, please do join the Facebook group FYI CIC, and you'll be updated on any new workshops that we are currently doing. Yeah. Okay. So, just in regards to being the perfect mother and the employee, go on, I can see you're about to say something.
So basically, looking at social media again, I am an addict, I must admit. And you see all these brilliant pictures of, families doing so much, and you end up comparing. And that pressure in itself, like for example, I know like mothers that take their kids to so many different clubs, and then they take them on, for example, learning an instrument, and then cooking with them at home, and just being this perfect person. And that makes me think, I tried to do that and it's really hard. I don't know how it's done. I don't know if it's real, if people actually do that, but I can't do it. It's it is straining because it's like keeping up with the Joneses.
Okay, so it's funny because last week I had a crazy week, like we all did, because we were trying to add a few more clubs in there. We had a few other bits to do. And basically, what ended up happening was from Monday to Friday, even on the weekend somewhat, we ended up being, after school, going to another club. And it was literally every single day. Now,
See, I'm talking about you. You were the. Let's
why do you
just
keep
say it
saying
as
it?
it is. Like, oh my God, how is she doing that? And yet getting the homework fitted in.
No,
But I
but this
could,
is the thing.
but I could see by the end of the week that it wasn't quite the
It
perfect picture, was
it
it?
it didn't work. I forgot to do the homework, and I was like, "Oh man!" On Thursday, I saw the message
But I
come in.
bet you didn't put that on your social media, the bit that you forgot. It was
Well,
just a
no,
Rosie, 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 doing everything, being perfect.
to be fair, I don't use the social media because I just didn't have time to do it. Even if I could, I just did not have time. So I don't know how people, and there are some fantastic people, women that I've met who pretty much have a high flying job, do all the clubs. Their child is like the first in the class, and they still have time for Instagram and stuff. And I'm like, oh
Give
man,
me
I
a
give up.
break.
I don't know how it's done, but I did give it a good go last week, and I was knackered by the end of the week. And the house was a complete tip. Like seriously, it was, and it still is, to be fair. Um, so it's a tough one. I mean, I do try to add other clubs because I think kids get conditioned to, it doesn't matter how much you throw at them, they can get conditioned to it and get used to it. But I just feel like life is nonstop. As soon as the kids get home, I'm like, okay, now this, now this, now this, and literally until they go to sleep. And then I've got you, like, oh, we need to record a podcast. We need to do this for the FYI workshops. So, and even my husband's like, okay, we need to do this. I'm like, do you know what?
Sod it, I'm going to sleep.
Or I just watch my favorite program on TV, and I'm not going to go into that. Can't carry on. But you see,
so,
it is very tough.
so it does affect our mental health. And to the point of where people feel burnt out. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're at burnout,
Mm.
which, and then this comes to the side of self care, how important it is to have that 5 minutes to yourself. I remember, I mean, just tonight actually, I was dropping the kids off to one of their martial arts class, and it's like a 5 minute walk. And I was doing my social media while I was walking, which is really bad. And then I decided to actually spend time with the kids, the 5 minutes walking back, and it felt so good. When you start enjoying your surroundings, you really appreciate them. So in the instance of the talking about Asian aspect of it, you've got weddings that you need to prepare for, and an Asian wedding can be long. It can be a week long, a year long. a lot of planning. And for example, you need to go to different functions. So you're doing the work thing, you're doing the home thing, and then you've got wedding, on the weekend, your weekends are packed. And ironing an Indian outfit is a nightmare. I hate doing it.
That's why I don't do it.
I
That's why
know you
most people
don't.
will see me with creased clothes.
Yeah, I must admit you don't. And it's hard ironing an
The
Asian, like
salwar.
a salwar, yeah, an outfit. And that in itself, and then you need to, everyone needs to match, and you all need to have the right colors on, etc. It's
See, I
just a
don't worry
headache.
about things like that.
Yeah, I know you don't. I don't want to say.
I barely match my
Yeah, I
my.
do remember you turned up to a wedding and the suit that you wore, so the Indian outfit that
All
you
right,
wore
all right.
were
Why we
really
don't have?
outdated.
All right. Chill out. You don't need to go down this. All right. It doesn't have to turn into a bitch fight. Okay,
Just
but
saying.
then do you know what? I think one of the clubs that the kids go to, they do say that you need to come if you miss a certain number of weeks of this club, then you need to consider whether you want to carry on. And it is a good point. Like, yeah, we've got functions, but you need to make that decision as to
What's more
well,
important?
I'm smiling here because I had that problem this weekend. Obviously, last week, like I said, was a crazy week, which isn't going to happen again because it was crazy. But we had two functions, right? It wasn't two functions, one registry for a club and then a function, right? And
What do you
I
mean by function?
it's like something a program that I had to go to. Now
Okay.
I'm like, what? I have to go to it because I've been invited. Whereas my husband was like, no, you need to prioritize which one. I'm like, if someone's invited me, I have to go.
I understand because if someone's invited you, you don't want to look bad. And remember, if you go to theirs, they all come to yours. And if they don't come to yours, it's probably because you didn't go to theirs.
See, this is
And
the
it's
whole
that money
Asian
thing
thing.
as well, exchanging money. If you give the gift, you have to remember to give the gift back.
Well, no, it's just like someone's invited you, you have to go. But then this is where the pressure. See, I think men feel less pressure on this. This is completely sexist, but hey, a lot of the podcasts are going to be from the women's point of view, so I don't really care, right? But he didn't seem to care as much, and I'm like, no, I have to do it. So again, it's what is the perfect friend or daughter-in-law or daughter or sister, this, that, the other, because you have to go to every function, which means I was going from one side of the country to another side of the country only to be seen and then come home exhausted. And then I had to do the kids' homework. So I was trying to fit it in, but none of it's going to happen. I mean, I looked a mess like I do most of the time. But
Glad you said
but
it.
it's a tough one. It really is
so,
sometimes a bit tough.
so then it comes to you need to decide what you want to do and what is priority. I mean, one thing I remember like speaking to a friend, and one thing I basically wanted to, like, I wanted to speak to her or something, and she had a switch off her phone time at 8:30, and I thought, wow, okay, I would have found that rude, but now thinking about it, it is switching off all your devices and just shutting everything down and just calming down and having that downtime.
And it's so important. I completely agree with that. Like I have to have my phone on me, right? But and I've had times where someone's texted me in the middle of the night with
Is that
something.
me?
No, it's work related, and it really stresses me out. And then I can't go to sleep till I've seen my phone. And then I'm like, once I've seen it, I'm like, oh crap, like I need to deal with this. But you can't because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, so it's ridiculous. But so now I just put it on silent. I was going to leave it downstairs, but I thought that was a step too far. Um,
This the addiction, isn't it? But
yeah,
I do the same thing as
it's
well because
stress.
I do so many social media posts for business, and you just want to see where you got that like from. Is the post doing well? And to be honest, this is how bad it is. I wake up in the middle of the night, random times, just to see how the posts are going.
And there we are, listeners. Please do start commenting on the Facebook and the Instagram because that way
I do
Taj will
read
have,
it.
yeah, she will read it at 3 o'clock in the morning and reply.
I do as
So,
well.
yeah,
But I
exactly.
have second thoughts about direct messaging because I think this person's going to think I'm a natter waking
But
up
anyway,
at two.
but it's the expectation of what the other person see, and then it goes back to the subject that we're on. Okay, let's go down the Asian community thing. Okay, so you've spoken about events, but I just want to turn it slightly in regards to being the perfect mother, being the perfect wife. Now, we've discussed this in previous podcast of we do as women, no matter how much we say, oh no, we're equal and we should all be doing the same. When we get home, we still expect to do most of the cooking. You know, the other half might do one surprise meal for the whole year, which you'll hear
It'll be
about for the rest of
remembered
the year.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone will be like, it's true. It's like, the barbecue that we had. So my husband made it, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's the best barbecue. And so he said it himself. He was like, well, you cook every time, but no one's ever going to say, oh yeah, that was fantastic. But
But
this one time,
I do say that to him as well. And the reason why I say that is because I'm like trying to say, hey, you done really well. Do it another time.
oh, so
That's
that's how
why
it
I
works.
say it. It's called sucking up.
Do you think I should do it every day so that he makes food every day then? Because
No,
it's not going to work.
yeah,
But anyway, the
mm.
point is, if a man cooks once, oh my God, he's the king. He's the best chef in the world. He's Gordon Ramsay. But if you have to do it every day, it's just like, well, that's your duty.
That's
Now,
it. Duty. Yeah.
do you? Yeah, and I know we've discussed this before, but again, it goes back to how much can a woman do? Now we've added the pressure of having to do full-time jobs plus look up and on top of the housework and all this sort of other stuff. Can we juggle all the balls? What do you
I
think?
don't. There's always this statement, like this thing that we throw out: work-life balance. There's no such thing as work-life balance. There's always the scale's always going to be tipping on one side, and that until we don't realize that, we're just going to carry on and just stress ourselves out, and to the point where I've said it before, burnout. Because either you're working a lot and you're putting the kids to the side and home life to the side, or you're doing it the other way around where you're putting home life and then just working a bit. And it's priorities in life. What what is more important?
I do agree. Yeah, that's why the house is always a mess. I'm like, it's not my priority at the moment, and
But
it's
that's talking about the house. I mean, if you don't do it, to be honest, I only clean on the weekends because I just don't have time in the evenings to do it. Some people can do it. Good luck to them. I just can't. So that's why I don't invite anyone around because my house is a tip.
yeah. But someone did actually say to me a little while ago, the best way to make sure the cleaning's done is by inviting someone,
Yeah,
because you know that you will scrub hard.
and that is true. Very true.
It is true.
And
Yeah.
then you stop inviting people around because you don't want to be working that hard.
But you know, it's quite nice actually because my husband did actually clean up as well, so it helps because he has to do it as well.
My husband don't do that.
Well,
He might
that's
do the Hoover, but anyway, getting a
hey,
bit.
that's something. Anyway, so just in regards to the Asian community, then, how much do we as a community put a pressure on women then to carry on with their duties at home?
Well, there's quite a lot because if guests come round, it's the expectation that the woman's going to do the cooking, and you will on the odd occasion, like you said, when we've come round to yours, that your husband done the cooking. But that isn't every time. A majority of the time, you've done the cooking.
Oh, thank you. You never say that when you do come round. You always take the mic.
Oh, come on.
All right.
And that happens around
And this
my
is
house.
recorded now. I'm going to start playing this to you.
Oh God, made a
Okay.
mistake there. But anyway, yeah. So the expectation, has to be a lovely meal. It can't be a frozen one. Oh, no hints there, sister.
I don't. Okay. I don't give you frozen meals when you come.
But there is that expectation, and then, like I think I've mentioned this in other podcasts as well. When I was first married, I didn't work for a while because I couldn't find a job, to be honest. Um, and every weekend, the women used to, are you working? Are you working? Oh, like, for God's sake, stop asking me. I'm not working, and it's none of your business. I was setting up a business at the time, um, and I didn't want to disclose that. But if you then you become a non-person because you're not working. You've got nothing else to talk about. You've got nothing else to offer.
Mm. Again, it comes down to who you're talking to. If
That
people are
is
going
true.
through the same thing, you tend to talk about, if I was at home, I tend to talk to friends that have kids as well. And it is about the kids. And
So should I signpost myself? I'm at home only talking to the people that are at home. I do not talk to people that are employed.
you could do, except now it's changed because you are employed, plus you're
Yeah,
setting up your own business, plus you've got your family to look after. So, hey, you just got to juggle those balls.
talk to everyone.
Okay, so we can see that women are finding it quite tough, whether they say it or not, which is probably why a lot of women, and I found this during coaching, are going through mental health problems, whether it's severe or not, but they are feeling stuck. But what can we as a community do then? Because this generation, I feel like this generation, we've been stuck in the same sort of traditional sort of ways. You know, our parents came from abroad and we've sort of bought that here. And I'll give you a perfect example of why I say that. So at our last return to work workshop, one of the comments that was said was, my family didn't expect me to go to work. They expected me to stay at home, right?
Mm.
That was said by someone that was Asian. Now, someone that wasn't Asian, I then spoke to them afterwards, and they're like, that is really weird. They go, it's a complete opposite for me. So it's a white lady, and she goes, my friends would think I was crazy if the expectation was that I was going to stay at home. See, it's the complete opposite. So what can we do to make sure that we're sort of, although we're stuck in this generation between being Eastern and Western, and that's where a lot of the pressure does lie, how do we make sure that it doesn't happen in the next generation?
Well, we stop talking. It's saying to other women, "Have you started work yet? Have you started work yet?" That'll be a start.
But you know what? This is the thing. Like, sometimes you ask a question, you don't mean it offensively, but you need a conversation. I mean, like, what else are you supposed to talk about, right? Like,
You-
I've had times, and I know I'm wrong. I've had some awkward moments, which is why I don't ask this question anymore. But oh,
what is the question? So, go
are
on.
you planning to have more kids? And it's not. I didn't mean it in a horrible way, or and then there
Like,
was a
what are you
short.
doing, loafing around? Have another one, kind of thing.
Oh, well, yeah. So I remember this instance where that happened. I didn't mean it in a horrible way. It was just a conversation starter, which I've realized is not a good idea now because people have their own issues as to why they're not having kids or whatever. So I don't ask that question anymore. But like going back, oh, when are you going back to work, or are you going back? Maybe the person just wants to have a conversation, so you don't have that awkward moment of, the lift moment. And by the way, when I'm in a lift, I do actually say, the lift silence, and then it sort of starts a whole conversation up.
What
But
you say? The lift silence.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, I do. Just to break,
Why
I
would
can't,
you say that?
because then that way someone's talking. You don't want that weird lift moment. Anyway, you get my point. So they're just making conversation.
Okay, I see your point.
Do you
How
get it?
else does? Yeah, I get it. So I won't put down that auntie that asks me.
Oh my God, you and the bloody auntie, man. Like, you need to stop talking to auntie. That's where your issue is. You talk to too many old women. Okay, so how do we do it so that our kids don't go through the same thing? Our daughters don't go through the same thing?
I think it's what we've said in previous podcasts. We need to make sure that we balance out that boys as well as girls understand that both genders cook, both genders do cleaning, both genders do everything, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. And then
Done.
that expectation isn't there. Yeah, but we say done. I don't think it's done. I don't even think it will be done in our kids' generations.
Do you reckon?
I really don't.
Mm. I don't know. I think there's a lot more effort being put in to, I mean, look at the advertisements and stuff. You don't tend to have that whole, well, you sort of do, but it's less there. Oh, the woman. So, for example, kids' toys where they have a kitchen, they always have a boy and a girl. Have you ever noticed that? So they don't
No,
say,
because I
oh, it's
don't
the
watch
girl.
adverts anymore.
Oh, yes, of course, because kids can't stand it. Oh, don't put that program on right now.
I know.
Okay, but do this. Do like watch a one with a kitchen in it, and there's a boy and a girl. I think it's so good that they do that. It's
Well,
about
to be
raising
honest,
awareness.
my son, my daughter had a kitchen. We moved when she got old, not old, but older, and she didn't want to use it. We put it into my son's room, and he was pretending to do the cooking and that stuff. So I think I'm doing all right. Pat on the back for me.
All right, so let's leave this podcast here. As you can see, this is a massive conversation that we as a community need to have. How do we take the stress off women? And how do we equal out the work and the duties that we have? Like I said, I tend to find that once you speak to other people that are going through the same thing, you realize that you're not the only one that is going through it, and it takes that burden off you as well. So it'd be great to have some points of views, some experiences from you listeners. Join our Facebook group, changing_suits, and let us know your experiences and what you've been through. Thanks for listening. My name's Val.
And my name's Taj.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.